My father banned my daughter from his birthday, calling her a dead end, so I walked in holding her hand. I came back to town after 7 years, carrying a suitcase that felt lighter than the weight in my chest. I told myself it was only for one night, one birthday, one duty I could not avoid. My father's message still echoed in my head, sharp and clear, like it was meant to cut. Heirs only. No dead ends. Don't bring your daughter. There was no warmth in those words. No love. Just control. That was always his way. The road into town looked smaller than I remembered. The trees leaned closer, as if they were whispering secrets I had tried to forget. Every turn brought back memories I had buried deep. Laughter. Anger. Promises that broke too easily. I parked near the old farmhouse at the edge of town. The house stood quiet, worn by time. The white paint had peeled away, showing the wood beneath. The porch steps creaked when I climbed them, just like they used to. The air smelled of dry earth and old rain. This place had not moved on. Maybe neither had I. I hesitated before knocking. When the door opened, Sarah stood there, frozen for a moment. Her hair was tied back loosely. Her face looked softer, but her eyes carried a tired sadness. The kind you get from living with unanswered questions. "You came back," she said, almost in a whisper. "Yeah," I replied. "I did." We looked at each other, unsure of what came next. 7 years had passed, but the silence felt familiar. Heavy. Fragile. She stepped aside and let me in. The house was simple. Clean. Quiet. Sunlight came through the window and rested on the wooden floor. Everything felt smaller, but warmer than my father's cold house ever was. "I heard about your father," she said, breaking the silence. "He's still the same," I answered. "Just louder now." She nodded slowly, as if she already knew. We stood near the table, not sitting yet, like sitting would make things too real. My eyes moved around the room, then back to her face. I wanted to ask so many questions. Why she never called. Why she never told me the truth. But the words stayed stuck in my throat. "I didn't think I'd see you again," she said. "Neither did I replied. The past pressed in on us. The last night we spoke came back to me in pieces. Raised voices. My anger. Her tears. My father waiting outside, reminding me of who I was supposed to be. I had left without turning back. Now I was standing here, face to face with the one person who knew the man I used to be. Outside, the wind moved the tall grass, making a soft sound, like a long breath. Time had passed, but some wounds hadn't healed. I realized then that this visit wasn't just about my father's birthday. It was about everything I had run from. We finally sat down at the wooden table, the same one where we once shared meals and dreams. The chair legs scraped softly against the floor. The sound felt too loud in the quiet room. Sarah wrapped her hands around a cup of tea, even though steam had already faded. I noticed her fingers tremble slightly, then go still. "So, your father's birthday is tomorrow," she said, keeping her eyes on the table. "Yes," I replied. "He made it very clear who is welcome." She gave a small, bitter smile. "He always did." Her words pulled me back in time. I remembered standing in my father's office, his voice calm but sharp, telling me love was weakness, that some people were dead ends. That Sarah would only slow me down. I had believed him then. Or maybe I just wanted his approval more than I wanted the truth. "You didn't have to come here first," she said quietly. "I wanted to," I answered. "I needed to." She looked up at me then, really looked at me. Her eyes searched my face, as if she was trying to decide whether I was still the same man who walked away. "You left without listening," she said. Her voice didn't rise. That hurt more than anger would have. "I know," I replied. "But you never told me everything either." The room felt smaller after that. The air grew heavy. She turned her head toward the window, where sunlight touched the edge of the curtain. She stared at it like it held answers. "I told you what I could," she said. I watched her closely. The way she avoided my eyes. The pause before each sentence. Something wasn't right. It sat between us like an unspoken word. 7 years ago came rushing back. The night she begged me to stay. The way her hands clutched my jacket. The sound of my father's car waiting outside. I remembered how I told myself leaving was the only choice. Did you ever think about calling? I asked. Every day, she said, almost too fast. That answer only deepened the feeling in my chest. Then why didn't you? I pressed. She stood up suddenly and walked to the sink, turning on the tap even though there were no dishes. The sound of running water filled the room. She took a deep breath. Some things, she said, are easier to carry alone. I stood as well, stopping a few steps away. You shouldn't have had to. She turned to face me. Her eyes were wet, but she didn't cry. You made your choice, she said. I had to make mine. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but the words felt weak. I had left. That part was true. Still, I couldn't ignore the feeling that there was more. Her guarded tone. The way she placed a hand on her stomach without realizing it. The careful distance she kept between us. Tell me what you're not saying, I asked softly. She shook her head. Not yet. The silence returned, heavier than before. I knew then that the past hadn't just followed me back to town. It had been waiting. The day of my father's birthday arrived with a clear sky and a tight feeling in my chest. His house stood tall and proud, just like him. Cold stone. Clean lines. Nothing out of place. Cars filled the long driveway, all expensive, all familiar. People like him. People he approved of. I held a small hand in mine. My daughter walked beside me, her steps careful, her grip firm. She wore a simple dress. Nothing fancy. She looked up at the house, then up at me. Are you sure? She asked softly. Yes, I said. I'm right here. The doors opened, and the room slowly fell quiet. Conversations stopped. Smiles faded. Eyes moved from me to her. My father stood near the center of the room, glass in hand, already ready to speak. When he saw us, his face changed. Not anger. Not shock. Fear. Behind us, Sarah stepped inside. Calm. Steady. Strong in a way she never had to prove. My father's hand shook slightly as he set the glass down. This is a private event, he said, his voice tight. Heirs only. I felt my chest rise as years of silence finally broke. She is an heir, I said. She's my daughter. The room held its breath. My father looked at Sarah. Slowly. Carefully. As if hoping she would deny it. She didn't. 7 years ago, after I left, he went back to the farmhouse. He offered money. Protection. A clean break. He told her I would never choose her. That a child would ruin me. That if she loved me, she would disappear. She did what she had to do. Not for him. For me. For our child. My father's voice dropped. You had no right. Sarah finally spoke. You took his right to choose. My daughter squeezed my hand tighter. I knelt down and met her eyes. You did nothing wrong, I said gently. None of this is your fault. She nodded, trusting me without question. That trust was everything my father never understood. The guest slowly stepped back, uncomfortable, unsure. The perfect image he built began to crack. Not loudly. Quietly. In front of everyone who mattered to him. I stood tall. You called her a dead end, I said. But you were wrong. She's my beginning. My father said nothing. He couldn't. There was nothing left to say. I turned away from him, from the house, from the power he once had over me. As we walked out, sunlight filled the doorway. Warm. Honest. Free. Sarah followed beside us. Not behind. I didn't look back. Some people lose everything the moment the truth walks in. And this time, it walked in holding my hand.